Greetings, Star Trek Fleet Commanders. I am the Angry Rhino. Today, I'm going to attempt to explain to you how Isolytic Cascade is calculated. Now, I'm going to use this battle I did against a freebooter. See, here is Janeway. She's giving me 10%, plus 10% Cascade. Now, what you also want to figure out is your isolytic damage. You can get that through researches. As of right now, I'm pretty sure there's only primes, so you would have to buy them. There are artifacts. Now, you might be a few different types of artifacts, so you would have to pay attention because some of them are specific. Ones are, like, say, ship specific with a status ability, and maybe PvP or hostile specific. Now, I'm using the Corvus here, but I am not running morale. Just because I didn't lean into Harry Kim and get him up high enough, there's really no point for me anyway. So, my artifact is only at 1.5%. So, it's a little easier for me to show you, so this might go well. Now, how do you figure this out? Well, because Cascade kind of, let's call it, accepts the, what are we calling this? Isolytic damages. Takes your isolytic damage, uses it, so it's in addition to, and it enhances it. So I'm going to take my isolytic damage that I'm getting from my artifact. And for me, that's the only place right now. And I'm going to factor in my isolytic cascade. Because it's enhancing it, let's do multiply 1, because it is an increase, 0.1. 0.1 is for Janeway. And we're going to get, what would this be? 1.65%. Now, this is really just the enhancement of isolytic damage from Cascade. Now, we got to add in the Cascade. So it's fairly simple. Plus 0.1. And really, you're going to take this number here and multiply it by your regular shot damage. Now, the code only does 3 decimal places. So it isn't 0.1165, it will be 0.117. So, 77401. And I'm sure you're very excited to see me click on my calculator a lot. Times, what was that doing? Is that the right number? That wasn't the right number. Sure it was. Yes, it was. Okay. There you go. Now, again, rounding. Yes, I got 406,855.917. Well, this is 856. Well, obviously, rounding. Now, showing you, I'm pretty sure we're all aware of this. I'm not the first content creator to try to explain isolytic damage or isolytic cascade to you. I'm well aware of that. This is just really an additional, more knowledge, really. Because as Ultimate DJ said in his podcast, whatever night it was that I was listening to it, Isolytic damage is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So we're all going to have to figure this out and try to understand it as best as we can. Assuming certain researches go off of base and are not increase as much. They don't increase your damage output as much because they're going off to the base of the ship. So it's pretty small, but let's say like a critical hit. All your research and all your artifacts or whatever, that gets factored into your regular damage, and then you multiply your critical damage after. It's more of a boost. That is why some of us, and I know I really have leaned into it, critical hits and critical damage. So does this isolytic damage and this isolytic cascade work like that, where lets all the factoring take place from your researches and your ship and whatever, and then also allows the critical hit number to pop up like the one I have here, and then it factors out your isolytic cascade and your isolytic damage and all that? Well, let's check it out. 272 times 0.117. That would be a yes. Again, rounding. Now, as you can see, I did not have hull breach. This was my first critical hit of the battle. Therefore, critical hit without hull breach. Now, does it also amplify the critical hit that is amplified by hull breach? So, more amplifications. Alright, so right here should be, no, that isn't what I wanted. Thank you. Here's a critical hit that is amplified by the hull breach. Alright, so let's do 813092 multiplied 0.117. See, showing you proof here in the battle log that this is how it's calculated for me. It's going to be a little different depending on what artifacts and what researches that you have. Now, this is also goes into why some of us preach critical hits and hull breach. Because as you can see, you're getting even more isolytic cascade and isolytic damage from not only a critical hit, but a critical hit that is amplified by hull breach. So even more. And why is this important? Well, it does lead to more damage. And as of right now, if you can see on the right side of the screen, this freebooter is not mitigating any isolytic damage. So this 2 million, almost 2.1 million damage is not mitigated at all. Some of it is getting absorbed by the freebooter shields, but that's not necessarily mitigation. That is like redirection or something. However, and while I'm here, let me call your attention to this. Now, been discussing, because of some of my crew recommendations, like let's say Voyager going after the Voyager hostiles, I like to use 5 Gorkon, mainly because I really want those critical hits. Some folks out there are saying, Rhino, I can't do it like that. I gotta have Kang. Well, part of that depends on you and your research also. So we take a look at this. Here's my regular shots. 3.4-ish, 3.2-ish. Here's my critical hit. This is the one without the hull breach. 12.6 million. So how much critical damage do I have? Well, I have about what's approximately 375% is my base critical damage. Or maybe not base. Base probably is not the right word, but my critical damage without a hull breach. Is yours 375%? Depends on all the research, and I don't think there's any artifacts for it, but then there's projectiles. I do have at least one projectile. I want to say 2 projectiles that increase critical damage. There are also several researches in there. So that's, what did I say? It was about 375. Let's come down to the one that is amplified by hull breach. Now we're at 17.8 and 18.6. Well, maybe we can do the calculator here. What did I say? I was at 3.4 million. This isn't going to work. I did that wrong, didn't I? Just rounding here. That did not work. What do I need to do? So, yeah. Let's do that's approximate. Not exact numbers. I wasn't putting exact numbers in here, but this is now my critical damage-ish with hull breach. Like almost 524%. So, something to consider whether you need Kang for a certain hostile or whatnot. My critical hits with hull breach are like 5.25 shots. Look at the mitigation. It is mitigating half. Yeah, we'll call it half. What would Kang be doing for me there? Yeah, I mean, he would be making that better, sure. But how much better? Probably going from about 50% to about 20% mitigation, I think. So an increase of 30%. But if you get a critical hit, then that's more. Especially if you have hull breach. This is 5 shots. So that is why I think getting the critical hits and the critical damage and the hull breach is better for me. Testing by you, you're just going to have to do that. I mean, I can only show you so much. I don't know where your research is and whatever. You're a different player than me. You do things differently. You do you. I do me. I lean pretty heavily into this critical damage and hull breaching and all that stuff. Seems to have worked out okay for me. All right, let's wrap this up. So, hope what I've done here is try to explain to you what this, what are we calling it? Cascade. Isolytic Cascade does for you. It is, as I think some of us predicted, kind of like another critical hit. Partly because it's all factored after. Comment below. How are you liking all this isolytic damage and isolytic cascade? Is it as confusing as I think it is? I think this is pretty confusing. Be sure to like and subscribe. I am the Angry Rhino. Shields up, Commanders.